Chapter 15, Section 2, The Renaissance Moves North. The objectives. In this section, you will understand how the Renaissance spread from Italy to the north. 2. Identify key literary figures and ideas of the Northern Renaissance. 3. Identify key artists and artistic ideas of the Northern Renaissance. Key terms. Movable type. Individual letters and marks that can be arranged and rearranged quickly. The artisan's work was painstaking. At his bench was a block of wood. With great care he carved away the surface. His task was to create a raised surface that could then be smeared with ink and pressed onto a flat material. What was the result of all that effort? It was a single page of a book. In the mid-1400s, a German printer named Johannes Gutenberg began work on a project that would create a new way of printing books. He would develop a system of movable type, individual letters, and marks that could be arranged and rearranged quickly. Gutenberg also developed a printing press, a machine that uses movable type to print pages. The availability of books would change the way information and ideas traveled in Europe and the world. Movable type allowed printers to use the same letters for different pages. The Renaissance, thought and literature spread. Over time, the changes that supported the birth of the Renaissance in Italy moved northward into Western and Northern Europe. Northern industry and trade expanded. The feudal and religious base of medieval society weakened. These changes were followed by changes in literature, art, and culture. Renaissance ideas, along with developments such as Gutenberg's printing method, helped bring great change to the entire European continent. As had happened in Italy, many scholars in Northern and Western Europe became interested in humanism. Renaissance thinkers throughout Europe applied the ideas of humanism to religious thinking, a movement called Christian humanism. These thinkers were concerned with the study of Christianity rather than with the study of Greek and Roman texts. The leading figure of Christian humanism was Dutch-born Desiderius Erasmus. Erasmus was a Roman Catholic priest. However, in one of his most famous works, In Praise of Folly, he mocked certain church practices. These practices, he believed, had little to do with true faith. In fact, Erasmus thought that such practices often covered up corruption. Erasmus was also a leading scholar of Greek and Latin. His efforts had a powerful impact on education in Europe. One of Erasmus's close friends was England's Sir Thomas More. More was a lawyer. He may have been influenced by Greek thinkers such as Plato and Aristotle. His famous work, Utopia, describes an ideal world that is based on Greek philosophy. By writing about this perfect place, More was actually pointing out problems he saw in his own world, such as divisions between people who were politically weak and others who were politically powerful. Reading check. What did In Praise of Folly reveal about Erasmus' beliefs concerning many church practices? Gutenberg built this printing press to produce the Bible. Literature of the Northern Renaissance. Many writers in Northern and Western Europe were influenced by new literary ideas developed during the Italian Renaissance. Like Petrarch and other Italian writers, these authors experimented with new ideas and unfamiliar literary forms. François Rabelais of France was a devoted follower of Erasmus. Rabelais, best known for his Gargantua and Pantagruel, a tale that uses comedy to express the ideas of humanism. A group of 7 French poets known as the Pléiades applied ancient Greek and Roman forms to create new poetry in French. These poems focused on common themes such as love and patriotism. The spirit of Renaissance ideas also brought new energy to poets in England. Sir Thomas Wyatt and the Earl of Surrey helped introduce a popular Italian form of poetry, the sonnet, to English audiences in the early 1500s. England's best-known poet, William Shakespeare, wrote at least 37 verse plays, many of them based on plots borrowed from ancient works. Shakespeare changed details of these ancient stories to appeal to the audiences of his day, and he created many memorable characters, including Romeo and Juliet. Shakespeare's interest in the human character was a key feature of the Renaissance. Reading check. What common theme was shared by many Renaissance writers in France and England? Renaissance architecture. The Renaissance also affected architecture in Europe. Like artists and writers of the period, Renaissance architects drew ideas and forms from ancient Greece and Rome. For instance, medieval churches had been built in the shape of a cross. Now architects design buildings in a circular shape. In the ancient world, the circle, a simple, clean figure, represented the perfect shape. The Globe Theatre. The Globe, one of the public theatres in London during the Renaissance, saw the production of many of Shakespeare's plays. A modern staging of A Midsummer Night's Dream is pictured at right. Name, what other Shakespeare plays do you know? Art of the Northern Renaissance. Several artists in Northern and Western Europe distinguished themselves during the Renaissance. Flemish painter Jan van Eyck, who lived in the early 1400s, was a master of realistic portraits. Van Eyck used multiple layers of oil paints to create rich visual effects. His bright colors and eye for realism show the details of everyday life in the region that is now part of Belgium and the Netherlands. He was only one of several well-known Renaissance painters from the Netherlands. Germany's Albrecht Dürer was a painter as well as a master of woodcuts and engravings. In the late 1400s, Dürer visited Italy to see firsthand the work of Italian Renaissance masters. This visit had a deep impact on the young artist, whose work began to reflect the Italian style. Dürer was a person of wide interests. In the early 1500s, his work began to reflect events that were just then shaking the religious foundations of Europe. In the next lesson, you will read about these events, which are known collectively as the Reformation. One of Van Eyck's most famous paintings, The Marriage of Giovanni Arnolfini and Giovanna Cenami,